Welcome again to Coach's Corner. We have a great show today. We have Notorious Nick Newell. A lot of you know him from his Netflix movie, Notorious Nick. I know him at a different level as a fellow coach, and we kind of work together and collaborate with our fighters. He owns Fighting Arts Academy in Milford, Connecticut. Trains a couple of really good upcoming fighters, Justin Sumter, Quentin Paisley, amongst others. Welcome, Nick. I really appreciate you coming on today. It's an honor to have you here.
Thanks for having me. It's a privilege and honor that you would even ask me to come on the podcast. So
look, obviously you've had much success in your professional and your amateur level, but also your coaching level. You're, I don't want to say an unsung type of gym because everybody in the industry knows who you are, knows the product you put out, but you just continue to work over there and produce different level of fighters and champions over there. I think that's in our industry, it's a great thing to do. A lot of people don't recognize the time and everything we put in.
Yeah, it certainly is. It certainly takes a lot to make people into what they want to become. I mean, they do a lot of the work too. You have to find the right people, but making the right moves and taking the right steps is a big part of that process, and it's something that sometimes even keeps me up at night, and something I think about daily, all day.
Yeah, I think as coaches, we definitely have late nights that people don't realize that our fighters keep us up, whether they're successful or we're changing plans or training regimens but obviously you're used to adversity. You're used to that lifestyle because, what you've put in to get your career is a lot of people, maybe couldn't do or don't understand. So you bring that to the table as a coach. I mean, you've had, over 300 amateur fights? 300 wins as an amateur?
Yeah, grappling. So in between, with wrestling,
right.
I wrestled in high school and college, and then all summer long. When I was in high school, I actually started in high school because I'll say this. When I was younger, my dad wanted me to wrestle, but I wanted to play baseball. I loved Jim Abbott.
Right.
Having one hand, I wanted to be like Jim Abbott.
Right.
And so I kind of got away from it a little bit. And when I was going into high school, my neighbor was like, "Oh, I'm going to join the wrestling team." And I was like, I will beat you up. Like, you're going to join the wrestling team? And he was actually pretty tough, but he motivated me to try it out too. So I was like, okay, I'll join the wrestling team. And I was 95 pounds only.
Right.
So the lowest weight class was 103 pounds at the time. And I joined the team. I used to weigh in with my clothes on and everything. And I lost my first 17 matches. And I was discouraged. I was like, I like doing this. There was one kid on my team that I would go back and forth with. So I like training with him and I like getting better. And I kind of became friends with some of the guys on the team. And my 18th match I won, and you would have thought I won the Olympic gold medal. I was so happy. And I knew that was something I needed more of. I needed that feeling again. I needed that gratification for what I was doing. And I enjoyed what I was doing. I just didn't enjoy what I was getting out of it yet.
Right.
And one of my teammates, a guy, Pete Benzavenga, he convinced me to wrestle all year long. So I was going to do track. I was maybe going to play soccer again or do something. And he's like, no, you got to do this all year long. So I wrestled all summer long, but the guys that I was wrestling with were good club team guys, and they were killing me all summer. So I was like, oh, what's up with this? And then the next season, I think I lost my first match, and then I started winning. I won 4 in a row. And I was like, what? Am I getting easy matches? What's going on? And as the season went on, I was like, okay, like this is what hard work does for you. And I was like, I'm good now, because while everyone else was partying and doing all this other stuff, I was in the room wrestling, training, staying out of trouble, and just getting after it. You know, I was kind of an awkward kid growing up, so it really helped me that in that sense, and it kept me.
Right, you got your confidence level coming in the gym. So now you're training. You lost your first 17 fights, right?
Yeah.
You work with fighters. You work with individuals out there. How are you motivating yourself to go back into the gym day after day, right? You're putting the effort in. You're training, but you're coming up short. You know that as a coach, it's hard now. Who's helping you? Who's keeping you focused? And what are you doing at that point for yourself?
Yeah, I remember my coach, he still coaches at Jonathan Law High School wrestling, Matt Schoonmaker.
Mm-hmm.
He used to get mad at me when I would like lose matches, not like scream at me like, whoa, you know, like, but he was hard on me. And I was like, okay, this guy sees something in me that maybe I don't see in myself.
Right.
There was a match where it was this guy and I was like, oh, he's going to kill me. I said that to my coach. I said, oh, I don't know if I should wrestle him. He's going to kill me, you know, and he like kind of lost it on me. And then I went out and I wrestled this kid and I really thought that he was going to kill me, but I still tried my hardest. And I lost like a really close match. And I was like, maybe if I just believed in myself a little bit more, I would have won, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of switched that over and was like, you're going to have your doubts, you're going to have your fears, you're going to have insecurities. I don't think anyone that says they're never scared or don't think about losing or have no fear or anxiety is probably either a liar or really insane, you know?
Yeah.
And
I agree with you there. I mean, look, fighters, we know they all have different types of personalities. You fought as a professional level. Also, you know, there's little triggers. That anxiety is there.
Yeah, it's there, and you just have to hone it. And one thing I told myself is it doesn't matter how I feel. It doesn't matter who's over there. It doesn't matter what happened. It doesn't matter if I got enough sleep. It doesn't matter if I had a bad injury. You're going to figure out a way to win. When you go out there and you compete, you got to figure out a way to win. Winners win with what they have. And when you step out there and you made the choice to go out there, you made the choice to go out there. It's on you. You know, by my senior year, I was all state in wrestling, you know, because I kept that formula going. I wrestled in college. I was a 2-time captain. I won matches in 6 different weight classes.
Right.
I wasn't afraid to challenge myself.
When did it hit you in high school that you said yes? Okay, like you said, you had the little adversity in the beginning. You catch your win. You're still going at it every day. Coach is pushing you. When did you click in your head and say, look, I can do this at the next level? I could take it to college and, you know, continue this sport.
Yeah, it was kind of weird for me because outside of my coach, you know, my personal coach, I didn't really have anyone that was motivating me through sports. No one in my family really played sports. I mean, my dad wrestled for like a year maybe in high school.
Right.
But he was a troublemaker. He kept getting in trouble and he was like kind of like a punk, you know, and my mom was the same way. My mom was a really big troublemaker. If you meet me, you would never guess because I'm like kind of more mild mannered. I'm kind of goofier a little bit and really relaxed. But they were like getting into fights, trouble type people. They had me not like super young, but like 22 years old, you know. And I think that kind of like turned the corner. My dad went through some things, but he ended up getting his stuff together. And, you know, but I didn't have anyone that was like, you need to do this. If you do this, this, and this, you can get this, this, and that. I didn't know. I was just going through it and just taking it step by step. So I was like, oh, I'm good enough to beat these people. Oh, now I'm good enough to beat these people. And then like maybe I would go on like a forum and be like, wow, these guys really think that I can do that. Mm-hmm. I was like, that's crazy. Like I guess that I can, you know, and I'm just gonna go out and just.
You went to Western New England, correct?
I went to Jonathan Law High School and then Western New England.
Right?
Yep.
Were you recruited by them, or did you just decide I want to go to school here and eventually I'm going to end up wrestling, or how did that come about for you?
Wrestling was something that I needed to do in college. I wasn't done yet. I wasn't ready to call it. You know, I only started my freshman year, and most people have been wrestling since they were kids. So it's like, I need more time on the mat. I really enjoy this. Like, this is where I have other friends. I have a lot of friends that don't fight. I like actually having that separate world, but also a lot of the good relationships I make were through wrestling and now fighting.
Right.
But I just needed to do it. So I kind of expressed my interest in them, and then they helped me actually like out a lot with getting into college, and the fact that I could wrestle, even though it was Division III, helped me a little bit get in.
Was that your first choice, or were there other choices? You wanted to be close to home, or was the school a fit for you?
I kind of wanted to produce videos and go into video production and kind of create content and do stuff like that. So I found they had like the department that I needed, the department that I was going for, and they had wrestling. So I was like, this is really my only choice.
So you're on campus there. You end up wrestling there and became a captain. How was when you went? Obviously, like you said, you're a freshman in high school wrestling. A lot of we know in this area, wrestling is big in the Connecticut area. They're starting kids at 5, 6 years old, 7-year-old programs all around the state. Now you're out in Massachusetts. How did you fare when you started on the mat there? How did you feel, and what was your motivation, and what were you doing to make yourself better at that time to keep improving?
Yeah, it was different, you know, because in college, everyone that wrestles in college is a state champ or all state or really good. You know, like guys there's so few programs now. And not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but like now they're adding women's wrestling, and I think that's awesome to a lot of colleges because Title IX, you have to have equal men's sports to women's sports. And wrestling never really made any money for schools. So instead of just adding more women's sports, like the purpose of the bill was supposed to be, they just would take away men's sports. So they took away a ton of wrestling programs from universities and colleges. So the ones that they had left really had like really good people in them. And it was tough. So my first year, I was kind of like back to square one. I was winning matches. I wasn't like my freshman year in high school, you know, but it was tough. I was like a little under 500 my first year, and then my second year I was a little over, and then my third year I was winning, and my fourth year I was winning.
Were you questioning yourself? Do I belong here? Can I compete here at that time? Because now, you know, you're 4 years in, and now you're at your 5th year wrestling and as a freshman, and then obviously, you know, you're holding your own. You're 500, okay? So with 4.5 years of experience, how did that play for you mentally? And what, like I said, what was your continuous motivation to go?
Yeah, I would say that I was used to being one of the better guys now by then. You know, when I was in high school, my last year, I was good. Everyone knew who I was. I won tournaments. I did.
Right. You're the man on campus. Everybody knows you. And now, you know, you go from being a big fish and you're, you know, a small fish in a big pond now.
Yeah, I was different. And I started to get beat up. I still liked wrestling. I would show up and work hard at practice. But really, the truth was I did get a little lost in college. You know, between grades, trying to keep up my grades, living on my own for the first time. So I know this is stuff that everyone goes through, but different people deal with things different. And, you know, I got a little distracted in college, I'd say. I got caught up a little bit in the college lifestyle. Nothing too crazy or anything like that, but I wasn't.
Yeah, you were being a kid in school who had some freedom, and, you know, any athlete today has to make that transition when they're in school now to balance, because wrestling was probably a full year commitment for you at that point in college.
Yeah, well, when I went to college, when I was in high school, I didn't do anything. I didn't go to parties. I didn't try to meet girls. I didn't do anything. I was just wrestling all year round.
Yeah.
And like go home, wrestle, go home. And like I maybe just pushed myself a lot. And I got to college and I had a bunch of teammates that weren't that serious at the time. The program's doing much better now. But I kind of got distracted by them a little bit with like college
The lifestyle.
things and lifestyle and things that you shouldn't do. So I'm not particularly proud of my college career, even though I did better than most. Probably, I don't think I've reached my full potential. I mean, I was a 157 pounder and I would bump up to weight classes. So my first year I was 149 and then I was 157 every year after that, but I bumped up. So I won matches at 165, 174, 184, and 197. Just for the team, I would always go out and challenge myself. But I think that my college wrestling career kind of motivated me to be something in mixed martial arts, because I was like, okay, Nick, like you could have been more, you could have done better. And it really upset me and it really motivated me to cut all that stuff out and get serious and do something.
So when you were in school, your transition into mixed martial arts, were you crossover training in college, or did it start when you left Western New England?
Well, in high school, when I was in high school, my friend Pete, the one that convinced me to train all off season, he showed me UFC. I don't know what number it was, but it was when Ken Shamrock fought Tito Ortiz the first time. And I never really watched fighting. Like I knew who like the boxers, famous boxers were and stuff like that. But admittedly, I liked like WWE and stuff like that.
That was more mainstream in our face every day.
Yeah.
And in the early days of UFC, it's not all over like it is today.
So I saw Tito Ortiz beat Ken Shamrock and I was like, wow, this guy is crazy. This guy's so tough. This guy's so good. And I was like, I like this. But I didn't know if it was for me yet. I just wanted to focus on wrestling. And then he showed me a Pride event. And I was like, okay, this is really cool. Like, I still like this, but I'm not sure yet about this. And then when I was a freshman in college was the year that The Ultimate Fighter came out. And one of my roommates was a huge pro wrestling fan. And he ended up actually being in the WWE later, but they used to watch, like all the guys would watch wrestling, but after was The Ultimate Fighter, and I started watching The Ultimate Fighter, and I was like, I have to do this. I have to do it. And then one of my teammates was training at a local gym. It was a different name, but now it's Fighting Arts Academy in Springfield, Mass. And I started going there, and I was like, I love this. I got to do it. I gotta know how to defend myself, but I also want to fight someone.
So you walk in, you're there, you start training. What's the reaction? Now you're in deep. You're trying to carve your way out. What are you working on, and what is your first impression on the earliest part of your career? Now you're really transitioning from wrestling. Now you have to learn the different forms of, mixed martial arts and put it all together. Now your training's going to get a little different. Yeah,
I will say this, the training and the attitude in a wrestling room is rigorous. It's very tough. It's very hard. Like, you can say anything to anyone. You can call people out. Wrestlers aren't really dramatic. Like it's just no nonsense.
It's all there.
Head down, work hard, take pride in being tougher than everyone else. But if you don't like getting punched in the face, it doesn't matter how hard it is. You got to learn how to deal with someone hitting you. And some people take to it better than others. And it doesn't matter how hard you work or anything. Like, it's just a different world. So with me, the first time I walked in, people were hitting the pads, the kickboxing pads.
Right.
And my coach, Jeremy Libashevsky, is his Polish name. He's still my coach now. His wife was hitting pads, and she's good. She's a good athlete. She never fought, but like she's good. And I came in, she's this little girl, like rah, 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 and I was like, this girl could probably beat me up, I was like, and seeing how hard she hit, and I was like, I gotta kind of maybe learn how to do that. So I just have the same attitude I had when I started wrestling. It's like, if I do this long enough and I do it with a purpose and I show up with intent and I show up with things that I want to learn and skills that I want to acquire, I can figure out how to do this if I put in the time and I put in the effort. So that's how it was. And he never treated me any different than anyone else. I think I got really lucky with the first place that I walked into,
Right.
because I knew other people that trained there, but still sometimes you don't get the right chemistry at places, even if the people are good.
Yeah, we as coaches, we know you have to have chemistry with your fighters. There's, I'm sure you've coached people that, not that we don't like them or dislike them or anything. We just don't vibe.
Yeah, you could be talented, but maybe you would do better somewhere else. And some people will do better with you. And to me, my coach has a disability. He's dyslexic. So he always had trouble in school and stuff like that. And he's been short and like bald and he needed braces when he was like 25. So I felt like he could kind of relate to me. He didn't like count me out. He was just like,
he extended you to consideration that maybe of things that he was going through. Did he expect you to come back?
I don't know. His gym was so small at the time, and I knew someone that one of his fighters was on the wrestling team with me. So I came in and I tried hitting the pads. I was probably horrible, but I was like, I like this. I want to come back. And, I just kept showing up and just kept showing up and just showing up. And then eventually, we have a relationship. We've built a rapport, and I tell him what I want to do, and he tells me what I have to do it, and I do it.
When did the idea of actually fighting a pro fight come about? And how long were you training before that idea came about? Because, everybody knows it doesn't, you don't walk into the gym and then 3 months later you're getting pro fights.
Yeah.
So we know there's a lot of time gap in there. So how long was your transition there?
So, the times were a little different. If you watch old school MMA, it was a lot more raw than it is now. Mm-hmm. The guys are way more skilled than now than they were back then. And I'd been wrestling. So I showed up my freshman year and started training with him in between seasons of wrestling. So I didn't really want to fight right away. I just wanted to train and just focus on wrestling. And then, so that was when I was a freshman. And then after my senior year was when during my senior year, before I graduated, was when I took my first fight. So once I was done with wrestling was when I decided I wanted to fight, because I'd gone to fights and I watched them. And in my head, everyone watches it on TV and say, oh, if you train, I could beat that guy up, or this guy sucks, or this guy doesn't do that. Right. Oh, he keeps his hands down, like maybe I'll just kick him in the head. People have words, but they have no follow through. And they don't understand the work that goes in to make these things happen. So what I did was I asked my coach, what do I have to do? What do you want me to do? Because this is what I want to do. I want to fight these guys. I want to beat these guys. And you tell me what I need to do this, and I'll do it. And that's what I did. I listened to him. And then, I started off fighting as an amateur first. Right.
So did he give you you really want to fight speech? Did Nick, this is not an easy road? Did he try to deter you, or was it like, okay, this is what we need to do, like you would do it with a student or somebody, okay, here's the plan? Yeah,
it was like that. And things were there wasn't as much glitz in fighting now. I mean, it was like,
It's for the love of the game.
It was in bars, you know. It was a bar that had a ring, and people could like be like this close, like where I am, like they could put their arms inside the ring. There was no athletic commission or anything. And I would just spar with the other guys at the gym and fight with the other guys in the gym. And that was kind of like my, like, okay, I can hang with them. Then like maybe I'm good enough to go fight when I could hang with the guys that were already fighting was kind of the thing. He did make me show that I was tough. So I had to do like one thing. It was like 8 5-minute rounds in a row. And it was 4 different people. And I had to go 2 rounds with each rotating through. And I got beat up the whole time because I was tired, but I kind of had to show that I was like tough enough to deal with adversity and stuff like that. I don't know if people do that anymore. I don't think he even does that anymore. But at the time, things were a little different. It was a little more...
I think we have different ways of challenging our fighters today.
Yeah.
Maybe not because look, at the end of the day, we're trying to get them ready for the fight. We don't want them really to be injured, but we also want to see how much heart and how much they have that they want this.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, the guys weren't trying to knock me out. But they were trying to push me.
They were challenging.
And they were just trying to make you quit, you know?
Yeah.
I want you to see if you quit, see if you break. And I didn't, because I'm not a quitter. I'll never quit. That's one thing that I tell myself, like, when I do something, that's like the easiest decision to make. What kind of person are you? If things get heavy and you're not doing well, I'll just give up. And then it's no, and it's just something that I have inside of me and that some people don't have inside them. But like, it's a decision that you have to make. That no matter what I go through, I could be tired, I could be getting killed, you know, like I still have something in my head right here that tells me that no matter what's happening, there's still a chance that I could do something that could allow me to win. So you're not going to get me to give up.
Yeah. No, as we know as coaches, you know, in the fight world, we all have fighters that are dealing with adversity at every level, whether it's talent, personal stuff, being overlooked, whatever the case may be. The fighter's mentality is, look, we're not going to quit. We're not going to quit, all right? No matter what, knock me out, drag me out, take me out, but we're not going to quit. You are dealing with double adversity now, not only with your handicap and you're in a sport where there are people, you know, there's haters out there all across the board, even fighters, like you just said, oh, I could do that, or he's no good, or he should do this and he should do that. How was that coming into play with you? Now you're in the gym, you're training, and you know there's always guys chirping in the gym. There's, what is he doing? Even if they're good, bad, or indifferent, there's over, he's no good, he's this. What does he think? He's going to be a fighter? He's going to do this? Your non-quit mentality is working for you because you're going to outwork everybody in the room. You're going to be the hardest worker there, right? But how are you dealing with the chirpers and the people that obviously, you know, going to give that little talk saying, you know, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, luckily enough, in wrestling, you know, it was like we could solve this right now by just going at it.
Right.
And it's also a team sport. As much as you say it's an individual sport, in a lot of regards it is, but it's also a team sport. So the team needed me. You know, I was the only guy small enough
at a certain
for
weight,
the weight class.
Yeah.
And then I got good, and people were like, okay, like this guy's going to win matches for us.
And
like,
you're making weight. You're not working, right? You're there every week.
I'm outworking everyone. I'm not complaining. I'm not telling anyone this. I'm not skipping practice. You know, and I show up to fight, and I'm at a fight gym and with my coach, and he always just kind of looked after me a little bit. I think he kind of...
like Dooley said, like a good coach, and I don't know your coach, but from what you speak of him, a good coach is going to look out for his fighter, no matter what. You look out for your fighters. Doesn't matter. We have to take care of them if we're going to keep working with them.
Yeah, and I think that he saw how hard I worked, and he saw how much I sacrificed. And at one point I was working, I had a job for the History Channel after I graduated, and I was working 5 days a week there and training locally. And on my 2 days off, I would go up and train with him, and I would even move my schedule around so I'd have more hours closer together so I could spend my weekends training. You know, I didn't always get the weekend off. I actually would make sure I worked on the weekends because that's when he had off, so I could be off during the week so I could train multiple times a day. And I liked that, so I would stay at his house. But even before that, he's just like, hey, this kid's out here, he's out working you, so what do you guys have to say about him? He has one hand, yeah, but he's also working harder than you, and he can beat a lot of you guys because his mentality. And if anything, people maybe didn't like me because he would talk about how hard I worked all the time. Oh, you have to do it like Nick. You have to put in what he says, you know?
A lot of guys don't like that. But obviously, forget about outworking people. You obviously had skill.
Yeah.
So, you know, we take that part of, you know, you take a hard worker and you put a little skill with him. I mean, that's a different ballgame right there. So you're owning your skill with a great work ethic. So coaches are going to definitely notice this. So you go into your first amateur event as a, you know, on your path to being a professional. How many amateur MMA fights before you saw or thought that I'm going to go to the next level? How did that come about?
When I first started fighting, nobody was fighting amateur. It was a new thing.
Right.
In MMA, you used to just go straight to the pros. And if you look at a lot of the old school guys, it's just straight pro. So people would do like only 1 or 2 amateur fights and then go pro because there was no foundation. Now people are getting up to 10 amateur fights sometimes before they go pro, which in boxing, you get hundreds. You know, so
you can. And you know what? I know now because there's more gyms like yours throughout Connecticut and New York, and there's tournaments that you can actually take your kids to now, correct?
Yeah, for jiu-jitsu and grappling, yeah.
Which is part of
it's a part of it.
So you're able to get out there and know what your competition is.
Yeah. And so I fought my first amateur fight. My opponent pulled out on fight week, and I moved up a weight class on like 3 days' notice. So I was small. I used to fight at 155, but I weighed in at like 162. I didn't cut like a ton of weight. Now it's hard for me to make 155, but then it was easy. But I fought at 170, but I only weighed in 162 for the fight, and I lost a decision. I got actually out-grappled. But I was like, you know what? I like that. I want to win. I want to win at this. I'm not going to let this stop me. And then I fought 2 really tough guys my next 2 fights too, and I beat both of them. And I heard the athletic commission was coming to Massachusetts. And sorry. So when I heard the athletic commission was coming to Massachusetts, I kind of talked to my coach and I was like, yeah, I know I have a lot of work to do. I wrestled high school, college. I'm winning grappling tournaments. You know, my striking could be a little bit better. It's a work in progress. But I still feel like I'm better than most at this. And I'd like to kind of go pro now so I can get in a pro win and already be a pro before they establish the commission and tell me like, oh, well, you only have one hand. Like, you can fight amateur, but pros are a different level. So I wanted to show that I could win at that level. And I said we could take it slow in between fights and kind of I can challenge myself in other ways. And he agreed. So I turned pro, but I ended up winning my first 11 pro fights.
Where did you turn pro your first fight? Where did you get licensed?
Massachusetts.
You did? Okay, so were all your first 11 pro fights in Mass, or were they spread out?
No, they were spread out. So I think I did Massachusetts a couple times and New Hampshire. And maybe did I do Rhode Island once? Maybe Rhode Island. They gave me a hard time at first once Rhode Island got a commission, but I already fought there once before they did. And I think I ended up fighting there again. I forget. But no, after like 5 fights, mostly in Massachusetts though, I started traveling. So I fought in Florida and Tennessee, California, Canada, all over the place.
So you're gaining momentum now. Now you said about your opponents pulling out. Was that a common scene as you're going down the road here, or was that because, you know, you're training for one opponent and, you know, you're doing your homework, and at the last minute, if they switch it up on you, that throws you off a little bit as a fighter. You know, now you got to readjust. And were you seeing that more, or were you at that point you're gaining momentum and you're gaining some credibility in the sport.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't hard for me to get fights until people found out I was good. You know, people say it's a lose-lose if you fight a guy with one hand. You beat him, well, then you only beat a guy with one hand. You lose to him, well, you lost to a guy with one hand. You know, and
but now fights are meaning something now.
Yeah, they mean
ends.
something. But when it was easy, people don't care because that's a win on your record, right?
Right.
When they thought it was easy, but once they saw it was hard, then it was a little bit harder for me to find fights. I had to take like some pretty significant gaps in between my fights with no fault of my own. I'm weighing in, people aren't showing up to weigh-ins, you know, things like that. So with me, it was a little frustrating, but like I said, I know the value of hard work. So no camp is really wasted if you're getting better and you're building.
You're
improving. And I was young at the time, so it didn't really frustrate me that much.
Yeah, you were doing what you were like. You're here at the level of where you want to be, and you're now. Are you still working at this time, or are you solely training in the gym?
So I had this is a story that people know from my movie. It's not like 100% how it is in the movie.
Okay.
But I had a friend, Abby Mestre, who was very talented. It said that we grew up together in the movie, but we didn't grow up together. I met him when I was in college, but we like hit it off right away. Like we became really good friends. We were different people, but we had
same passion.
Yeah, lots of passion and like a similar sense of humor.
Okay.
And I think that kind of helps a little bit, you know, like
Right.
when you guys find the same things funny, you can kind of like become buddies. And we both like to work hard and we're both very competitive. And we had tryouts for this league that was on HDNet, which is Mark Cuban's network. I forget what it's called, Access TV now. They dropped MMA.
Yeah,
they dropped the MMA, but at the time, Bellator was new. But if you could get a fight on Access TV, it was a big deal. That was like the step to go to the UFC.
Right.
Was to win there. And I got they had a tryout for a show there actually in Danbury.
Really?
Mm-hmm. In Danbury. And they had fights the night before, and I remember my friend Abby did a grappling match, and he won the grappling match. And then he went out and he was like partying because it was like, dude, you should come to these tryouts with me. And like, you should come do it. Like, you're really good. And he's like, I'm doing the grappling match the night before. I don't know. And he did it and he was hanging out. And then, because he was maybe a little, under, I said, hey, man, I got a great idea. I'll give you a ride home. And then I got him in the car and I said, come on, we're going to Connecticut. And I took him and he stayed at my house with my mom. And he was cool. And then the next day we went and did the tryouts. And
where were the tryouts held? Here in Danbury?
There was like, the ATT was in like a karate studio, but they had like an upstairs and a downstairs. So it was like a karate and a jiu-jitsu place.
Oh, at American Top Team.
Yeah, it was American Top Team, but it was the old location. So
okay.
It was like they shared with like a karate place. They had the tryouts in there.
Okay.
And he ended up winning the tryouts. My friend did. And he got a contract to fight on on TV. And I was like, that's amazing. I love it. I was so happy for him because I'm not a very selfish person like that. I'm not like, oh, you took what I wanted. That was my dream. I always think that like if somebody sees something in someone else, it's your job to make sure that they see it in you if you want them to, not to be mad or tear the other person down. And especially someone that helped me every day train and get ready and do things like that.
That's the other part about fighting, not to cut you off. They don't realize what goes into helping, whether it's your friend or a fighter. There are numerous people just there behind the scenes to get that person there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And he won it, but he was training for his fight, and he passed away in a motorcycle accident. So I was like devastated. I was really lost. I believe that you should be able to do whatever you want if you're an adult and it's not affecting other people, but I've never been like a huge fan of like really fast motorcycles because especially one mistake, you're done. You know, I'm not telling people not to do it, but it's just personal opinion on my side.
Right.
And they decided to do a memorial show for him, and they asked me to fight on it. And while I was working a full-time job, I was training for it, and I was training so hard, because this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a pro fighter. I wanted to be
Right,
a superstar. I wanted to be famous. No, I didn't really care about being famous, but I wanted to, like, be that guy, you know? And I kept falling asleep at work because I worked overnights. So people watch TV 24 hours a day. I would train in the day, twice a day, and, like, try to sleep in between training sessions. And then I would go work 11 o'clock at night till 7 in the morning in a job where my job was to, like, control monitor for the TV and make sure that, like, all the audio videos levels were good, and that, like, all the picture was clear, and, like, just all post-production stuff. But I was, like, so tired, and I didn't drink coffee at the time because I thought it was bad for you. And I kept, like, falling asleep, and I got fired. So I got fired, and then I was like, okay, like, let's use this time to, like, be serious and make a run at this. And if it doesn't work, then I'll go find another job. But it worked out.
Do you thank the History Channel for firing you now after, if you look back upon
yeah,
it?
It was,
you did me a favor, right?
It was almost perfect timing.
Yeah.
You know?
Because you might not have did it yourself. You would have kept going to work.
Yeah, I would have kept doing both and just been shot. I might have not been able to do what I did if I didn't keep falling asleep.
Yeah. So now you're there, right? You're training for this event. And what led to the signing after this? You were signed by XFC?
Yeah,
was Extreme Fight Championships?
Yeah, I was XFC. Well, they put me against one of their guys, and we were fighting, and I threw a couple strikes at him, you know, and he threw something, and I ducked under, and I took him down, and I said, oh, okay. I kind of got this takedown. He's my friend now. I like this guy. I hung out with him in Miami afterwards, but I did take him down kind of easy. So in my head, I was like, oh, this is like I got that. I was like, I could get another one if I need to, but I'm not getting paid by the hour here. Like, let's get this over, you know? And I didn't have, like, as much patience or composure as as I would now. I was young. I was crazy. I was like, I want to beat someone up, you know? So I grabbed a leg lock and I just ripped it as hard as I could, and he tapped out. But I thought, like, even if he got out, I would just take him down again because I wanted to beat him on the ground. And the whole place went crazy. It was in Tampa, and it was like where the Tampa Bay Lightning, I don't know if they gave away tickets or not, but the place was packed. And it was so crazy. And I was like, I got to keep going with this. I got to keep doing this.
So after that, who helps you along besides your coach? Or are you still doing everything? Now you're at a professional level. Are you taking the fight yourself? Is someone guiding you? I know your coach is probably weighing in here, like you would, but now you're seeing success. Obviously, people are seeing you and saying, this guy can wrestle, this guy can fight, you know, and he's tough, he's got skills. Who starts to guide you on this path now?
No, it's just me and my coach were just always so tight. I had management, you know, I got with a management company, and they kind of helped me out a little bit with negotiations and stuff like that. But a lot of it was just self-discipline. You could have a million people telling you what to do, but if you don't do it, it doesn't mean anything, right? You have to want it for yourself. So it was like self-discipline and setting a schedule for myself and making sure one day off a week. I don't care what people say. Some people train 7 days a week. Some people,
you got to recover.
But I need like a day where I can just shut off from that lifestyle and separate from it for a day and just like be something else, you know? And so I was training 6 days a week, every chance I could get, twice a day, just because I knew that's what you had to do. And, you know, I added in some lifting and some strength and conditioning, and kind of
the game's evolving now. Why this is happening with you, from where you first came in, and it's evolving. The talent is changing. The training is changing. Striking. leg work, obviously groundwork. Now you're starting to see different variety of fighters as you're going up the ladder here. What did you do to make your game better? Because obviously, great wrestler, great grappler, but the sport's evolving.
Yeah. My coach put a lot of time in with me on my striking, and he kept telling me, like, let's go on the feet a little bit more. Let's go a little more on the feet. So I had a couple fights where I spent a good amount of time on the feet, and one I had a knockout with a knee, pretty good one.
Right.
And just mixing it up and just fighting and training and spending more time doing this so I could be well-rounded so I don't really get outclassed by anyone.
So this is all coming about. You go from XFC. What was the next league that you were in?
I was in the WSOF, which is now the PFL.
PFL. From there, was it Bellator from there, or was it Contender Series from there?
So I went to WSOF or PFL, and I went 4-1. I actually earned a title shot. I lost that fight to Justin Gagey, who's UFC interim champion. Yeah, very good fighter. But if you watch the fight online, I was doing pretty well,
Yeah.
I had my moments, but it was his night. I'm not.
Yeah.
That's the game, and it was his night, and he's really great, and he's done some great things. So I'm happy for him now. Obviously, if I could reverse it and win that, I would like that. But sometimes you just got to accept things after, even if you did everything you could, it's not good enough. But there, and then I went on to fight headline. I took some time off, and I actually opened up a gym and started training after when I was 13-1 as a fighter. And I won 14-1. I came back, headlined LFA in Texas, won that, and then I fought in the Contender Series.
How was that experience?
It was good. I felt like I really underperformed that day.
Right.
I got taken down and controlled. I didn't really get beat up.
Yeah.
But as a wrestler, I just fought someone that was a better wrestler than me. And I couldn't get my submissions working, and it was not a good night for me. But I should have maybe done a few things different, but hindsight's always 20/20. And I got motivated from that. I went and won CES.
Yep, fought for Mr. Birchfield, Jimmy Birchfield, CES promotion. Works with our fighters, great man.
Yeah, so, the Birchfields have always been, Nick, when are you going to come fight for us? When are you going to come fight for us? And I'm like, oh, man, I got this going on. This person's doing this, I was like, but I like you guys, and they always took care of my fighters. So I went and fought for CES, and I had students fighting on that card too, and it was kind of cool, a little bit. I had some other people kind of take over that aspect of it, and I ended up winning there, and Bellator was coming to town, so I had my manager just basically beg them to give me a chance.
Did you fight on the Bellator Mohegan?
I fought in Bridgeport.
Okay.
In Bridgeport at the Total Mortgage Arena or
whatever. What they changed names?
Yeah, Webster Bank, I think
Webster
it was.
Bank.
And I won that in the first round. And then I got signed by Bellator, so it was good.
That was the end of you went out the door with Bellator?
Yeah. I feel like when I was younger and I was doing WSOF, and maybe even I messed this up a little bit with the Contender Series, is I had my own gym, but I was teaching all the classes and I was doing all that, and I wasn't really getting coached as much as you need to.
Right. You're trying to do it on autopilot at that point.
Yeah, and I didn't have the focus that you need to really do it the right way. So I don't really regret it because I love my gym and stuff like that. But if you want to be a fighter, I wouldn't recommend doing it unless you already have the capital to hire a staff of people to
run your facility.
facility. Yeah. So, you know, if you plan on teaching classes and doing that, it's just not a good idea.
No, I mean, look, you know what it takes. What were your camps getting ready for a fight? 8 weeks, 10 weeks?
Yeah, I'm always working. I'm always
Yeah,
training.
no, you're always gym. But once you take a fight, right? They give you the date. What are you? An 8-week camp, 6-week camp? How?
Yeah, probably 8 weeks more than anything. Kind of like.
So you know, in that 8 weeks, okay, if you're running out of training to go train other people, okay, you're not recovering your mind, you're not getting back into the gym, you're not focused on Nick, you're not focused on the fighter right now because you're sidetracked off the. And I think at any level today, mainly the professional level, the focus has got to be there, you know, because it's just so much more than the training. And like you said, you need time to regroup for yourself, have a day off. And, you know, it is a full-time commitment. And to do it, I have fighters that work full-time jobs, and it's tough. They do it because they're hardworking, driven fighters, love the game. But it's different than working with a fighter who just focuses on fighting, has no job. His job is fighting.
Yeah, and I mean at the highest level, and you compete at the highest level.
Yeah,
it's a little hard to do. Maybe at a lower level, it's.
But you amassed a good record. What were you, 16-4 when you?
16-4, yeah, and 2 of my losses were split decisions. I still, if you rewatch those fights, I'm like, I won those ones,
right.
You know, like. But I mean, it is what it is. Life goes on.
Yeah,
but
you know, we win fights we're supposed to lose. We lose fights we're supposed to win, and you know, it happens. It's the fight.
Yeah.
But so now you're full-time Fighting Arts Academy, full-time training, building fighters, young individuals. Obviously, you're a great role model for not only young kids coming into the gym who are trying out the sport, but your fighters, because your fighters can't say to you, you know, oh, you're going to outwork everybody. You've done it already. You know, that's got to be a motivation for a fighter to work with someone like you. And I'm not here trying to blow smoke up your ass or anything like that. That's a fact, because a fighter can't look you in the face and say, I'm tired, I'm hurt, or the dog ate my homework, or whatever the frig it was that he don't want to train today.
Yeah, I mean, I would never make someone that trains under me do something that I've never done myself or wouldn't do myself.
So how do you transition Nick Newell, the fighter, to Nick Newell, the coach? How do you take what drove you to help a younger fighter come along?
Passion, I guess, right? Passion for the sport.
There's that passion, but there's a way that it becomes believable and that someone buys into your passion and your system and your style.
Yeah, what would I do? How would I get better? How can you train hard but also train smart?
Right.
What moves do you have to make for this particular person to get better? What avenues would you suggest they do, and what are things that you think that would benefit them? So I try to structure my classes in equal parts, so you could get your striking, you could get your grappling, and you could get your wrestling, jiu-jitsu, striking, and like have other options, sometimes multiple options. So different people that need different things or want different things, if they're not a fighter, can get those. And really, like, a lot of them, I've spent my whole career submitting people and beating people on the ground. You know, I have 2 TKOs only, but a lot of my fighters win by knockout, you know? So it's like, obviously, I know in some regard how to feed fighters to their strengths. And when I can't do something right, or not that I can't, because it's like whatever, but if I feel like I need help with something, I'm not afraid to outsource it or ask someone else for their help, because I feel like pride is not a good attribute to have, and sometimes it's good to ask people for help and figure things out, right? So, you know, I have some fighters that I send to you to work with.
I mean, that's, you know, I appreciate that. myself and Benny Little, your guys are great. I mean, they come in, they work. We love having them in the gym, But I'm with you as coaches, we need to look, because the fighter it's about the fighter. When we get to the competitive level, the professional level, it's about the fighter. It's a dangerous sport. We know. We don't have to talk about that. We have to prepare them the best way we can. Sometimes we're a little too deep in the forest to see the trees as coaches. And, my style is we have some good people around there. And I'm like you. I like to say, hey, to another coach, what do you see? What do you see? Maybe I'm missing, or weigh in, or, hear it from yourself. How are your guys doing? I want to hear that feedback. What are they telling you? And basically you do send guys to us, and we're like, Nick, what do you want us to work on with this guy? Because we don't know them like you, so we have to ask you and say, hey, what's your plan? What's your preparation? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? And I think a lot of people have egos and feel that their pride is being hurt because they're asking somebody else, or somebody else is weighing in with something that can be beneficial to help that fighter or help that team.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll say one of my strong suits as a coach is I'm well organized with my training and orchestrated with the training. Like, you should do this amount of rounds. You should go with this person. You should spar with this person. You should do this on this day, that on that day, this on that day. I'm really good with that. Like, you should enter this tournament to do this and get this out of it in this division. I'm very well thought out with that. And the people that listen to me have had a lot of success.
People that follow the plan. And that's one other thing what people don't understand about combat sports. They think we just throw the guys out there, beat the shit out of each other, that there's no calculation behind what we do. Yes, I'm with you. There's a plan. We need to know where we're going to get there and to how to get there, right? So you have to have calculation of what you're doing to prepare for a fight each day. It has a meaning, whether we're conditioning, whether we're sparring, who we're sparring with, when we're sparring, all that stuff that needs to make us better. And a lot of people out there, like you said, they see the fight and they say, oh, he should have did this and he should have did that, but it's happening so fast. They don't realize all the work put into it. I mean, you get guys ready, multiple guys. You had Justin and Quentin on the last CES show. You're training both of those guys to get ready.
Yeah, and I had another fighter there too.
Okay.
One of my fighters, Arslan, he's a immigrant from Turkmenistan and a chess champion as well. He's a really interesting guy, and all three of them won that night, so it was a great night.
You swept the table.
Yeah.
But now you're running your gym, right? And you're running a business, and you're getting these guys ready. Plus, I know Justin works. I don't know Quentin and the other gentleman. So now you're training around them. So now you got to formulate a plan for those guys and keep your everyday life going also.
Based when they can show up.
And you have 3 kids.
Yeah, that's the hard part is balance, right? So balancing a family and balancing coaching fighters and training myself, still staying sharp and staying healthy, and is very challenging. I have another coach. I have other coaches at my gym that help me out big time. A guy, Roger Denton's there all the time, and he's on a technical level is very good everywhere. If I have a technique question on anything, striking, grappling, anything, I usually can pick his brain right there. Combined with my organizational skills with structure and training, and keeping the flow of training going and keeping everyone working when they're supposed to be working, not talking. We're working right now, and doing, and like, hey, this is what you have to do. I always play the bad guy, like I'm the one that will tell someone you're not doing enough. You got to do this. You got to fix that. Hey, coach, do you think I'm ready for, can you think I can fight this guy? I'll say, no, I don't think you. I think you have to do this, this, and this first, and some people don't like to hear that. Or like maybe you need to stay and do more sparring. You want to fight, but you're not showing up to sparring. Like, How are you supposed to fight? You see, oh, this guy doesn't spar that much. That guy has like 40 fights. You have 0 fights. Like, you need to come to sparring and you need to get used to getting hit in the face. Or like, oh, this, I'll just stop him from taking. You need to train it. You can't just have like a mentality. You need to do your grappling. You need to do your boxing. You need to do your kickboxing. You need to do your wrestling. You need to do this. I would say it all organized. Some people get mad at me because I'm particular. I told one guy, he's like, oh, I want to fight. I want to do this. And he's a striker already. But I said, like, your ground game, man, you don't even train at all. So how are you gonna do?
And you guys got
how are you gonna do that if you don't know how to do this? Someone will kill you. It's gonna take you years. It's like a lot of these MMA guys think they could just go into boxing and box right away. It's different. You have to specialize it, and you have to focus on it, and you have to do it the right way. And the people that think they have all the answers themselves are usually the ones that run into the most problems.
You guys got it tough because you got to learn 3 forms. You got to practice 3 forms to get ready for a fight. And, like everybody, preparation and repetitiveness to get ready for a fight. Look, every time we have a camp, I put my books together. I have little notebooks of each fighter, what we did that camp each day, documented down, what we're doing, what was done, documented, from weights to training, to who we trained with, what the plan is, this, that. But now in MMA, you guys got to work on striking, kicking, and grappling. And, okay, not every guy is going to be top of his game in all 3 of those.
Yeah.
He might be a better grappler, one might be a better striker, one might be better with his legs. But I see that with fighters. They don't think, like you said, the guy has 30 fights, 40 fights. You don't have any fights. You have 1 fight. What do you think you're going to do to beat him? What's the plan? What is your plan? Do you have a plan other than, I can do this, this, and that? No. But that's where we come in because we have to, like you said, be the bad guy. And usually the answer is, yeah, are you fucking crazy?
And sometimes I have to motivate people to tell them that they are good enough. Like, oh, you have to fight this guy. Like, oh, I don't know, that guy's pretty good. I'm like, listen to me. I know in my heart that you could beat this guy. And I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I would never get you hurt.
Nope.
Like, your reputation is my reputation. So, like, I'm telling you that I believe that you can beat this person. And you are an extension of me. So when I tell you something, it's always in my best interest. Even if something's not in my best interest, it's in your best interest, I'll help you. But as a team, I would never sabotage you on purpose for something.
I'm not feeding you to the sharks.
Yeah, I'm telling you that, like, this is what I believe that you need to do to get to where you want to be.
Well, we fall into it, and especially in boxing now, everybody wants safe fights. Everybody wants a fight to move up. You know what? And yes, you have to talk an athlete into sometimes a tough fight. Like, they say, well, but you know what? You're better than him. I've watched the tape or I've seen him fight and I've went over the plan in my head and I've been with you enough to say you can beat him if you follow the process and follow the plan. But, fighters, you won. They're an intricate little group of people that, some are insecure, some are uncertain, some are overconfident. You get a mixed bag. And I tell everybody, we manage personalities. Like I said, I probably could have went to school to be a psychologist, and I would have been, because I have so many years of on-the-job training of psychology, you know what I mean? But we do manage personalities.
It is. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, it's funny because with some fighters, you could be like, okay, this is the game plan. You do this, this, and this. If they do this, you have to get out like this. And then there's other fighters that you have, if you give them, like, any details at all, they're going to freeze up.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm like, hey, maybe, wait a second before you go to the ground. They'll be like, oh, I can't go to the ground. Or, like, if I'm like, oh, you got to get a takedown, like, use your striking and work in, they'll just, like, freak out and, like, shoot right away. So, like, some people, especially amateurs, a lot of the time, I kind of have to have, like, a plan in my head of what to tell them in between rounds from what I figure is going to happen. but like a more generalized plan than specific. And that's like a person to person basis. And other people I could give a whole layout of.
Yeah, there's certain guys what you can give them and what you can't give them. I mean, I had a fighter in a fight, and I like to, myself and Coach Benny Williams, we like to ask the fighter, what do you see out there? You know, a guy will come back to the corner, what do you see? Because sometimes, in a fight, the plan, a fighter might be seeing something a little different than what the plan is. It might be feeling, hey, we really didn't work on this, but, I see that shot. Okay, So we're in a fight one night, and fighter comes back to the corner, and I'm talking. I'm like, well, what do you see? And the fighter doesn't say anything to me. Now we're in between the rounds, and it's ticking, right? I'm like, it's not a fucking trick question. What do you see out there? Oh, okay, I see, he's moving this way or he's moving that way. Okay, so let's start adjusting this and going that. But, like to your point, each fighter is different. You got to make little quick mental notes to them, bing, 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 and then get them back out there. Some want details.
Yeah, Justin, who you work with, called a shot one time in a fight. We had a guy that was really strong, big guy, but he was a heavy striker. But he was not as technically good as Justin, so I had Justin cut off the cage. I was like, keep cutting him off, stay long. And he was beating the guy up pretty soundly, and the guy threw an overhand and kind of caught him, kind of rocked him a little bit, and Justin got back up to his feet, and he doesn't even remember the rest of the fight. I think he threw a jumping knee and like broke the guy's jaw, but the guy continued going the next round. In between rounds, he's like, I think this is the round that I shoot. And I was like, okay, man. I was like, I don't think that's a bad idea. And he took the guy down, cross-faced him, but he already had broken the guy's jaw with a knee.
Right.
So the guy tapped as soon as he grabbed his face.
Yeah, he was dying.
And it was like, and then the whole next day, he's like, what happened in the fight? I'm like, oh my God.
We'll be going over tape on that one.
Yeah, so you'll have to watch it.
So I got to ask you, right? All this is going on. How does the movie come about throughout this? Was it during your pro career or was it after? And how did that come about for you?
During, but kind of like towards the time that I took a break to establish myself. I had in my social media reach out for inquiries, and they reached out. They saw me, they reached out to my manager, and then that was it.
But that's obviously before social media is like this today, where is that the beginning of social media?
Yeah, I had an Instagram.
Yeah.
And I just put if you need me, for bookings or inquiries, reach out to Angelo Bodetti, who I was working with, and still work with. And they reached out to him, and then it just happened.
Took a life from his own.
Yeah.
And how were you with that? Were you shocked a little bit? Were you like, I don't know if this is for me type of thing, or you wanted to tell your story at that point, or they just kind of roll with it?
They took me out to LA, and I spent a couple days there just talking about my life and sharing it with them. And I knew that they were going to take liberties, but I gave them a basic outline of my life and things that happened, and they took certain aspects about it, and they exaggerated some, and they made up some things in between.
Right.
But at the end, they made a movie that's pretty entertaining, Right. People are like, oh, well, it got your hometown wrong, and I'm like, yeah, I know, and you wrestled in college, you didn't just drink after you were,
right.
You graduated high school, and I'm like, yeah, I know it's true, but it's a movie. They made my high school wrestling coach and my MMA coach two different people in my life that are both very influential in my life for different reasons. I wish they could have kind of kept that, but when you have a story to tell and a script to make, you kind of got to do what's best for Hollywood. My first practice ever was so hard. I came home, I was crying, and I was like, I quit. I can't do this. This is too hard. And my mom was like, no, you have to finish. You started the season. You can't quit. And I was like, what? And she's like, you cannot quit. You've promised to do this, and now you have to do it. You have to be a man of your word. And so I kind of was going to quit after my first wrestling practice, and then she kind of
put you back out there.
Yeah, put me back out there. So I owe that to her. But aside from that, she was like really hands off with my wrestling. She kind of just let me
roll with it,
do it, and be myself, you know. And fighting career, in fights, she would get so much anxiety coming to my fights, and she never like had a problem, but she'd have to like drink, you know, because she was so nervous that her son was gonna get. And I was like, man, it's just not healthy for you to come to my fights, you know, like the state, like I see her after fights, she's like, and like I won, you know, like, so I'm like, you need to not come to my fights, you know? So like it has her like at all my fights and like speaking to athletic commissions, and like none of that stuff ever happened, but she was just like a regular mom that was like supportive,
right.
You know,
worried
and
about,
she
about
knew,
her son.
Yeah, she knew her place was to take a step back.
Right.
And in the movie, they make it like she was like in my corner all the time, but like she was in my corner in different ways,
right,
that aren't necessarily.
She was there as a mom and a parent,
yeah,
supporting her son. And look, we were talking about this a little bit before we went into it. As you know, look, as a parent, my daughters did different sports, and I played sports, and I was very fortunate to have my dad as a coach, and it was easy for me to play for my dad. Okay, I wasn't treated any differently than anyone else. Watching my daughter, especially my younger daughter, my older daughter, play sports was probably one of the hardest things as a parent. And you talk about anxiety. It wasn't fight sports, lacrosse, cheerleading. It's very emotional. Now you just said your young son, and you said had his first grappling match.
Yeah.
And you know, obviously, we were talking a little bit about this before. How are you going to play into that situation? Because I know you're probably going to go through the same thing, not only as a coach, but we're parents out there. You know, you're a parent with your son or daughter, you know, fighting.
Yeah. You know, like I was saying in the movie, I'll say that it made my relationship with my dad look a little worse than it did.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my dad actually have like a good relationship. He just kind of went off the rails a little bit, but he got his stuff together. But that's different. But now me as a father, I always want to be there for my kids, you know, and I'm still doing grappling. I'm coaching, but I'm competing in grappling tournaments. And I'm not focused on it like I was in MMA, to tell you the truth, because I have a bunch of other priorities.
Right.
But I'm doing well in competing against high-level guys. Young guys, I'm almost 38, and I'm beating like 20-something-year-old kids that like live and breathe it because of composure and just skill.
Experience.
But my son saw, like I showed him like some clips, like, hey, look what I did, and I bring home medals. And one day he goes, Daddy, I want to fight someone for a trophy.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay, buddy. And he kept saying it. And in practice, he'll work really hard. He's very tough, but he kind of goofs off a lot and runs around and like, you know, like doesn't necessarily always pay the best attention. But when he goes, he goes. And so I called up my friend that runs like a grappling league, and my son's only 5, so like I'm not like, oh, he has to beat all the other kids, you know. I'm not gonna teach him chokeholds, because when you don't really know that you could like kill someone, you know, like it's like kind of,
you're gonna bring him
it's
along.
An irresponsible way to teach, I think. So I have him hit the mitts, you know. I do some mitt work with him, and I have him grapple, but no submissions, just position stuff. So I got him a submission, or I got him a match with no submission. So it was just like there's really no way to win, you know, but it's just versus another kid that's
to get
5.
him out there.
Yeah. And he went out there, no fear.
Yeah, that's great.
He ran out. I'll show you the video after. He just ran out and he was like, I'm ready to go. And like there was no hesitation, and the other kid was really tough in my friend's gym. So I think my friend got one of the kids that was like kind of tougher to like put him against my son, and they had like a good match. It was like back and forth, And what I like is like that he didn't necessarily just destroy this kid, right? He did some really good things, and he got put in some bad situations. He got out, he fought through, he was sweaty, he was like pushing the whole time, trying, like really trying his best. And then he finished, and, you know, it was a draw. So he shook the other kid's hand, gave him a hug, you know, and was like really, really, for a little kid, like pretty mature about it, you know, even though he's like a goofball of a kid. And afterwards he comes up to me and he goes, "Daddy, why did you lie to me?" And I said, "Well, why? What do you mean? How did I lie to you?" And he remembered I told him I got him a match. And I don't know why. I showed him the poster, and he's like, "Oh, that kid?" He's like, "He looks pretty tough. Is he tough?" I said, "No, he's not that tough. You can take him." And he goes, "Okay." And he just goes to bed. And then he goes, "You told me that kid wasn't tough." And I said, "Well, why? I didn't know. I didn't know. I never trained him. Like, I just know that you're tough, so I figured you could beat him." And he goes, "Well, you lied to me because he was really tough." And I was like, "Oh, well, I said, you still did a good job." He's like, "Yeah, I beat him up." And he goes, "He beat me up too, though. He was good." And I was like, "Yeah." And I said, "Did you have fun?" And he's like, "Yeah, I had a good time." So I was like, "Oh, okay."
And I think that's a lot of the misunderstanding that people see with our sports and combat sports. It's like you see something like that at the young level, the respect for each other, you know, the humbleness, and, you know, putting in the hard work and recognizing your opponent wasn't a walk in the park.
Yeah.
He came to fight also. But, yeah, I love that. I mean, I think right now, are you seeing more of a trend of young kids coming through your facility now with, you know, a lot of stuff going on, and today with the social media and bullying and all this stuff? Are you seeing more parents coming through with younger kids wanting them to be exposed to training?
Yeah, I maybe run things a little bit different than other gyms. At my facility, when it comes to the fighter training, I'm very, very serious. You know, I'm like hard on them, very hard on them. But with the kids, I just want to teach them to work and to stay consistent, but also have fun and realize that you're not perfect, but it's okay to challenge yourself and make mistakes. So I don't really push the competition too much on the kids because I don't want to burn them out at a young age.
I agree with that. I kind of go for, my theory is, you hear of fighters in all levels. He had 100 amateur fights. I don't believe in that. You know, you're a young kid. You're fighting. First of all, you're not fighting all competitive matches in those 100 amateur fights. Even if you're going to national tournaments, there's going to be a lot of fluff in between there. But I like to see the kids come in and expose them to the sport where they understand the discipline. They want to come train. They're kids. They want to have fun, obviously. And, you know, they can follow a little bit of a process and a plan for that hour or 2 hours that you're training them. Competing that's up to the kids and the parents. I put it to that point. I'm not pushing a young kid to compete. You know, at the end of the day, I'll sit with a parent and say, look, that's up to you. You know, if you want your son or daughter to compete, then we can figure a plan. But I'm not initiating it as soon as a kid walks into a gym for a class. By no means.
Yeah, you got to come up to me and you got to tell me you want to do it.
Yeah.
And I got to see you're a certain type of kid too, because it's
right.
No one really gets worse from competing. I mean, you could get hurt, especially when it makes you better. But some people just aren't there yet, or aren't, especially when you're for fighting. Not everyone should fight. Everyone should train. You have to be a different type of person to be a fighter. Everyone should train, because even if you're not the best in the world, it could give you a certain level of skill that you'll be able to handle yourself in dangerous situations if need be. It will build confidence. It will make you stronger. It will make you a good person. It will make you a better person, I think, whether you compete or not. But with the kids, I just kind of keep it like, hey, we're doing work. We're getting better. We're being efficient with our time. We're not just goofing off. We're also having fun. It's a little more lighthearted than the adults. and you're just going to build skills. You're going to build skills right now.
Yeah, I think you're going to build skills. You're going to build confidence. And as far as the training, look, our sport is an individual sport when that person goes out to fight. Preparation might not be individual, but that person's got to go out there. Team sports, you can take a time out. You can sit down on the bench. You can pull yourself out. You can do, like you said, don't quit. Stuff goes wrong in a fight. What are you going to do? You either muddle through it, fight through it, and keep going, or you lay down.
Yeah.
There's no other way.
Yeah. It takes a special type of person to fight, and it's a little different with like grappling and stuff like that. Obviously, you could get your arm broken or your leg broken,
Right.
and it's still very dangerous. But people can kind of handle that a little bit better, you know.
They're more, I think now with MMA, they're more well versed of what the sport is because of the evolution of the sport, right? And yeah, definitely, you definitely get hurt, get put in a hold, and get hurt. But you know, there's also the preparation of it too, where you guys are preparing for that. What if this, what if that? But you know, you can get hurt in boxing too, and definitely to go out there, yeah, you have to be a different individual.
You have to be ready because you only get one brain, you know.
Well, that's it. I don't, I tell guys too, it's not about, oh, I want to hit, No, it's not about being hit. You want to get hit all the time, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Sorry. But
build the skill.
Build a skill. Any thoughts of a comeback? Put you on the spot.
I say it all the time. I do want to do one. I do want to do one more fight.
Any interest out there? People talking to you?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Nothing that's
but
caught
nothing,
you, right?
It's not, with me, it's not about numbers or this or that.
Right.
It's about me being
It's got to be right for you.
It's got to be right for me because it's more than that for me. It's a passion thing. And I felt like I've been rushed into fights before when I wasn't ready because I was like, oh, I kind of want to make the paychecks good or like this show or stuff. But
now it's a little different. You're established as a coach. You have a business and personal life and a family. So now the fight's got to be able to motivate you to train to get ready for the fight.
Yeah, and I mean, and the truth is, I always train. I just
right.
I finished top 16 at like one of the hardest grappling tournaments in the world. If you win it, you go to the Olympics, and I won 4 matches in it. I'm still training, I'm doing that, but MMA is my real passion. Jiu-jitsu is just something I do for fun, and it's a part of MMA, and it keeps me busy and like motivated. But I think I'd like to do one more retirement fight. It's just I have to make the time for it because when I do it, I'm gonna do it right, and I'm gonna be selfish, and I'm gonna make sure that
of course
I show up and I get the win.
Yeah, you want to look good and go out the door or whatever the case may be. Like you say, you want to be prepared.
I turn 38 next month. I look younger, and some people will say that is young, but me,
your career is also where you haven't had any really major injuries or knockouts or anything else that kind of put you on a setback.
Yeah, I've only been really like beat up in one fight, and even that fight was kind of competitive.
Right.
In training, I've always trained pretty smart. Obviously, you spar hard on certain days when you have a fight. You have to, but smarter for the most part. But also, just my body's been through a lot, so I've been training since I was 14 all the way. I spent like 20-something years just training hard all the time. So I kind of am like figuring out like what I have to do to recover and train better now that my body just can't keep up with the type of training that the younger guys can do.
It's the recovery for us now. As guys get older in sports, definitely recovery. Well, we're going to kind of wind it up, and I'm going to ask you a couple of quick bullet questions real quick to wind it up. You get to pick somebody to be in a foxhole with. Who would that be?
You mean like
anybody?
We're at war?
We're at war. We're in a foxhole. Who's your go?
Are they just fighting, or there's
He's your guy next to you. It's you and him.
Oh,
or her or anybody?
oh, my man, I have to go with Uncle Raj that works with me at the gym. He's my guy. We work together, so
Okay.
I got him on my back, especially in a dirty situation like that. If you know him, you know that that's probably a good choice.
All right. You get 3 dinner guests, dead, alive, whatever. Pick them.
You should have gave me this answer. You should have gave me this answer before. I mean, Jim Abbott, who I met before, is like
Right.
my hero.
Okay.
I love that guy. You know, so
Yeah,
like,
pitched the no-hitter for the Yankees.
yeah,
University
I've met
of
him
Mich-
and I've had
Did
dinner
you?
with him, but
Awesome.
like, it doesn't take away. You know, it doesn't.
Story.
Yeah, it doesn't take away the impact that he had in my life, and you know, other things would just, you know, people in your life maybe that pass that you just want to have another conversation with, you know, and I'd love to have another conversation with my friend Abby, and then I have 2 friends, Pete and Brett, that wrestled me in high school, and I'd like to sit with them again and have another conversation and just kind of talk about things and talk about where my life is and how things are and just kind of update them and just kind of see what was going on, because with some of their deaths it was like kind of like a lot of mystery around it and kind of figure out what was going on. Sorry, that's kind of like a personal thing.
That's what it is. It is a person. You know what I mean? There's always, for me, there's always people out there or people in my life that I'd love to have, you know, those conversations with again, or be able to sit and break bread with them again, especially because our lives have changed from where we were to where we are now.
Yeah, in terms of like other people that I've never met that I look up to, I think there's a lot of people that have done a lot of great things in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never been like a hater. I've really always appreciate people that are out there and doing great things. So my answer maybe be kind of boring, but like I've been so focused on being the first version of myself that I've never really tried to be like anyone else. I've always just kind of stuck with being me, and there's a lot of people that I admire in this world and a lot of people that I think have done great things.
Well, obviously,
but there's only one of you, and you have to be the best version of yourself. And I could sit down with pretty much anyone and pick their brain. I'll find a guy. I'm impressed by anyone that works at any job that has passion for it and does a good job and does the best job that they can. It doesn't matter. The other day I was at a conference. I go to this thing for kids that are missing hands called Helping Hands. And I needed something quick to eat. I was hungry. So I usually don't do this, but I went to like a chain place,
right.
You know, a sub place, a Jersey Mike's. And it was so well run. I was like really impressed by like the young kids that work there. Not to say I would have dinner with them, you know, but like I'm like I respect everyone and I appreciate the people that made an impact in this world. But when I was growing up, I looked after Jim Abbott because I thought he was the only person that looked like me. And other than that, it's just a bunch of people that I like, but no real heroes.
Well, obviously, you've done a great job, not only as a professional fighter, but as a coach. Your ability to withstand and to train and to motivate yourself, which is going to help to motivate others. I mean, I really appreciate you coming on here today. And, you know, once again, you can find Nick Newell, Fighting Arts Academy in Milford, Connecticut.
Yeah.
And on Instagram also. Watch his movie, Notorious Nick, Netflix, correct?
It's not on Netflix. It's anywhere you can rent and buy movies. I think it's free on Tubi right now.
Okay.
If you do a Google search, type in Notorious Nick movie, it'll show where you could get it. You could buy it on Amazon. You can buy it on YouTube.
Right.
But it's on streaming anywhere you can rent or buy movies.
Give it a watch. Great movie. Great motivational story on Nick, and any athlete will benefit or any individual will benefit. Coach's Corner Sunday nights at 7 p.m. You can find us on YouTube at Coach's Corner, Coach David Champs Boxing on Instagram, and we'll catch you on the next one.